Okay, let me know when you run the commercials, and then
It's a chilly day in the neighborhood. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Would you be my neighbor? Hey, neighbor. Good to be heard, since I can't see you. Good to be heard on another Friday afternoon in Buffalo. That the weather is just weathering. We don't have snow. However, I had to put back on like a little crew. This is not a turtleneck, but my neck is covered. Long sleeves after last week, or no, that was the beginning of this week.
yeah, that was Monday and Tuesday.
I was acting like it was summertime, and I don't know how these algorithms work on this book face, better known as Facebook. I took one picture standing by a portable grill.
And that's all you gonna get.
952 likes for a picture.
Yep.
And wait a minute, let me tell you how many post impressions. 44,289. I ain't even selling nothing. Why couldn't this be when I'm selling an Amazon product? Because I did apply for the Amazon store.
Good.
So that when I push something that I like, you click the link and then I get paid.
Or even when you're selling Jesus.
Well, selling, 44,000. And this is from Tuesday, right? Yeah.
Yep.
I took the picture on Monday. I posted it on Tuesday. And 44,000. It's crazy. 952. But I posted bread and a wine glass for communion. Let me see how many. Now, maybe it's because I had on shorts. I don't know. I'm so built. Well, that has 6,000.
Oh, okay.
That had 6,000.
Oh,
That
okay.
had 6,000. So, but it's weird of what people will like, and now the food impressions they get a lot too. But anyway, good day everybody. Lot going on in the world. Let me start out first with some world news. If you're not keeping up with the no, not Ukraine, the Russia, nope, Israel. So many wars.
Yeah.
Israel and Hamas. If you're not keeping up with them, let me just give you the latest in case you're not keeping up with world news. The United States has been providing weapons to Israel to fight Hamas. And I want to be clear, it's not fighting the Palestinian people, but many of the Palestinian people, innocent Palestinian people, of course, are caught up and are being killed. Now, President Biden has said, basically, if you raid Rafah, if you continue, we're not sending any more weapons.
Yep.
Now, Israel is an ally or friend of the United States, and Israel's leader came out yesterday and
Mr.
basically
Netanyahu
said, "Yeah, we're gonna do this with you or without you.
Absolutely.
We're gonna continue this war." And I believe, and I have to ask Craig, when we crossed over to Palestine, when we were in Israel the first time that we actually went through the Rafah entrance, and we went to a town that was being built, and it was beautiful. And both Jews and Muslims so lived in this complex, and they were showing us how people could coexist.
Oh, okay.
It had everything. It had a mosque. It had it had gyms, like gymnasiums, daycare. It had temple. I mean, it just had everything, and it was beautiful. It was self-contained. You had grocery stores for Muslims. You had with specialty items. And when we were coming back, we got stopped, and I kind of lost it because the tour guide told us to hide the pamphlets and don't say where we were.
Wow.
And these guys get on the bus, these soldiers with these huge long guns, and they're looking kind of a little bit through our stuff, and I'm furious because at that point, I did not know. I learned about this while in Israel. I really didn't understand. When you're here, you don't really pay attention to all this stuff.
Right,
I didn't
right.
understand this whole conflict and how long it went on, but I felt like I was put in a very dangerous situation without my permission. And so when those soldiers got off that bus, when I tell you I let this tour guide have it. And what I said to him, that should have been people's individual choices.
Right.
If what we were doing was that dangerous. And this was
Absolutely.
during basically peaceful time. Basically, I mean, there was some head scratching.
I was
There was some
gonna say, there's always
protests.
uprising up there.
Yeah, and there was like even on the news, there was they're protesting, they're fighting, but we were right downtown in Jerusalem, and it wasn't as bad. So I don't know how this is going to work out. I really do think that the president is correct. That's my personal opinion. There's just so many innocent lives being lost,
Right.
and it is time now to talk.
Yes.
It is time. And I understand Netanyahu saying we got to get rid of Hamas. Like we can't be doing this again.
Absolutely.
You can't. So I do I'm so torn, but I guess that's how war is.
Yeah, and I think that, this past Tuesday we had some folks come asking the Common Council to support their resolution, and it had some detailed things in that many of us weren't comfortable. I know I wasn't, because I do say I agree totally with you that we want peace.
Yeah.
On both sides.
Yes.
I can't go and talk with a Palestinian, how they feel and what a Jew feels. I can't go into that. However, I do know the lives that are being lost, and what you see on TV is just hurtful. I mean, you're bombing hospitals and things like that. It's just, it seems like it's uncivilized. And so I understand the president's stance, because it seems as though we're supporting someone that is going in and continuing the destruction without any reservations. And that's not, I don't think that's what we want our weapons to be used in that fashion, when you're destroying whole areas and you're creating this despair in a neighborhood, affecting children, women and children.
Well, and I think that's why, we were at an event recently with Governor's Office of Faith-Based and Not-for-Profit, her new office. And one of the persons there was a Muslim. And she expressed disappointment in how the government is reacting. And I really identified, because as I know, I don't ever push war. I push peace. How do we get to peace? I think that's the discussion that you're starting to see in the forefront. Biden taking a stance, all of the protests all over the country now, and all over the world, actually. There are protests all over the world. And I think the protests are basically calling for, some of them, because some of them are out of hand, and they're inexcusable. I've said this over and over. I don't believe in either side utilizing anti-Semitic words, or even the other side then going after those who are pro-Palestine. At the end of the day, I just hope more people keep pushing for truce talks, and I mean people in power, and make Hamas do what Hamas has to do, and release the hostages that are still being held on both sides. So I think that's how we get.
And I think that the other nations who are coming and standing with the United States, as far as this goes, because it just seems as though, the leader of Israel just seems like, I'm going to go take this to the end, even though not even all the Israelis are saying we want to go that way. Right. I mean, we want, I got to worry about bombings and those things. So, yeah, I'm hopeful and I'm prayerful that we can come to some peaceful understanding, at least to begin the conversation.
Absolutely. In other news, staying not on international news but national news, I don't know if you all have heard about what's happening in Virginia, and in Virginia, they are renaming schools that they changed the name for Confederate heroes. So it's wild, because, when George Floyd happened, there was a mad rush to rename stuff. And like so many movements that talk about injustice, once that movement kind of goes away, things start to go back to what they were.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I tell the personal story that I have someone who I really like, and I think I've expressed this here before. One of my elementary school teachers, and during George Floyd, we keep in contact. He sent me a letter because the Common Council was considering renaming some things. It didn't occur, but he sent me this letter about how we should just leave things alone, and and he was a history teacher, so of course how important it is for people to know the history and yada yada yada. And I just shut down because I wasn't in the right headspace.
Right.
And as a Black man living in America, what was happening all over the country, I was too sensitive to even have a conversation with a white male who I love him, but you really can't feel of what it feels like to be in this black skin every single day and have to live and compete in a system that is not really created for you from the time you are born.
Absolutely.
So how dare you tell me about renaming? So these schools, I'm looking for the article, and because I was on my home computer and Google search is a little different on this one. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I had an experience with that when I lived in Virginia. I was president of NAACP, and the incoming governor decided that he wanted to reinstate Confederate History Month. And I remember sending out a press release and saying how tone deaf and disrespectful this man was to begin to put something in play that has hurt millions of African Americans. And you think that that's a good thing to do, to say, oh, we're going to start celebrating Confederate History Month, when you know the wounds are still deep there. Even though it's been decades, it's still, those wounds are still there. So when I saw that this article about the schools, it reminded me of that moment in time.
Yeah.
That you're going to go backwards. Well, why is that? When everyone seems to be looking at how do we develop a relationship and develop a sensitivity about all people. And for you to do that, you're basically saying, oh, we're past that point. We're going to do what we want to do.
Absolutely. Don Trotter says, I can't wait until we as USA put as much effort into our problems as they do other countries. Yeah. So here it is. Woodstock, Virginia. This is from Reuters.com. The Education Board for a rural Virginia county voted early on Friday to restore the names of Confederate generals stripped from 2 schools in 2020, making the mostly white Republican district the first in the U.S. to take such an action. By a 5-1 vote, the Shenandoah County Board overturned its 2020 decision that stripped a public high school and elementary school of their original names, honoring 3 military leaders of the pro-slavery South in the Civil War. Under the board's action, Mountain View High School will again become known as Stonewall Jackson High, while Honey Run Elementary School will revert to the name Ashby Lee Elementary. The names belong to some of the most well-known military leaders of the Confederacy. Robert E. Lee was commander of the Army of Northern Virginia. Thomas Johnson Stonewall Jackson was a Confederate infantry general, and Turner Ashby was a rebel cavalry commander. All of them were Virginians. And I know that everybody listening to this show knows that the Confederate Army was the army that wanted slavery to remain. And for Africans who were forcibly brought to America to be enslaved, to continue to be enslaved. And when George Floyd happened, and when there were protests all over this country, people started changing names and taking down Confederate flags and taking down the statues and renaming schools. And here it is, not 4 good years later, and they're like, no, we're going back.
Business as usual.
We're going back. and not only are we going backwards in this country on stuff like that, we're going backwards in this country, even when you look at the overturning by the Supreme Court
Absolutely.
of affirmative action.
Yes.
And utilizing race as a way of getting into schools. But and God knows I'm a welcoming city. You gotta welcome the ones who've been here first. Because right now money is flowing for housing, but that money ain't for us.
But I agree with that whole point as well. But I think this is the other part of it is we get so caught up in arguing about something here when, like you said,
Yes.
our rights nationally are being
Yes.
taken away.
Yes.
We have a Congress that has never been able to approve a Voting Rights Act for all people.
Yes.
And so now, piece by piece, that's being picked apart.
Yep.
Or we'll give it to you for another 5 years.
Yep.
So every 5 years, we don't know if black people can vote.
Yep.
Because why? Because we don't vote. And so we can keep nickel and diming over the issues. Oh, we should put money here. We should put money here. But meanwhile, we get ready to be back in sharecropping.
You daggone straight.
Because no one's paying attention.
You daggone straight.
And I think, you rest in heaven, peace, Jalen, you did his eulogy, and it was powerful. But it went back to what you said. It's about us. And we cannot seem to come together, especially when it comes to things like this. We have children and people who are, we have people who are taking our rights away. And we just seem to be going around. Everything is good.
But we giving them away.
Give it.
And we
Right.
giving them away. At the end of the day, we're giving our rights away because it's just what we say. When we look at what voter turnout is,
Yes.
and then people go, it don't work. They going to do whatever they got to do. You still got to hold people. You want to hold the council. I'm going to hold them accountable. People, we got to make sure the people are held accountable. And at the end of the day, those little dollars ain't nothing compared to the trillions of dollars.
Yes.
The trillions of dollars that go through the federal government's hands. And the trillions of dollars that we can spend on other countries and other people and to make other people feel comfortable in America. We got to make the people who are already here feel comfortable, but we are cutting those rights as fast as you.
Yep.
And y'all can do whatever you want to come election time, come November. You could do whatever you want to, because after a while you just go like, if this the kind of life, because the problem is when we come together, we only come together temporarily.
Absolutely.
We come together for a moment, and you just mentioned. Now we just did 14-year-old. Right? People came together temporarily. Like, this should have been a big deal in this city, over this city for the last 2 to 3 years.
But when the Bangladesh gentlemen were killed,
Man, and I ain't mad at them.
I ain't
Let
mad
me
at it
tell
either.
you, I am
mad.
not mad
Who's the
at
man?
them getting themselves together, but they're always together.
Yeah.
Always.
Now, I don't care. Y'all can get mad. It is what it is. Their culture
Yes.
is where these men stand up.
Yep.
Tim asked men to get together, and some. We're always divided. I ain't going with this group, and I ain't going with this group. If you can't help them, just stay out their way. That's how I feel.
Absolutely.
I can't go to everything. I'm not going to everything. It's impossible for me to go to everything. But I tell you what, I'm not going to do. I'm not going to use my platforms to dog out somebody else.
Sir.
Who's trying to do their best. I'm going to use these platforms to try to press an agenda of equality, try to press an agenda of justice, try to press this agenda. Tim had to go out, and I know people feel like, oh, you got too much credit. He deserved it.
Yeah.
He went out, found some money, put up billboards, did what he had to do. At the end of the day. Now, next week, I'm going to bury the little girl.
Yeah.
We'll bury her from here. 14 years old. 14 years old. 14. And let me say this, because I said it at his funeral.
He's 12.
She's 14 years old. The question that I hear from people that I see in comments, where the parents at? Why they out? Why is it that our children have to be inside at a certain time? But I can go other communities, their children can be outside. Somebody shooting is a crime. It was a crime, and it should be unacceptable in our communities instead of looking at where parents. I was out at 14. Let's be honest. We went to parties.
Yep.
We went to discos.
Yep.
I was Methodist. We had disco. The youth group had discos
Wow.
at Paramount Lodge
That's only the Methodist church.
at 14 years old. So I don't want to pretend like now, oh, these kids shouldn't be out and then blaming everybody else. No, somebody committed a crime and killed an innocent little girl. Let's put it where it really is. She's 14 years old. 14-year-olds go outside. 14-year-olds go to parties. 14-year-old hang out. But you think that's where we at saying that together? 14.
No.
We're going to bury the young man who was killed at the on Hurdle. So we're doing both of those homicides next week. And to me, it's about, people, I hear people saying, would people need more to do that? No, we need to catch criminals.
Absolutely.
We need to catch criminals. But it's very difficult to catch criminals if we're silent.
Yes.
But I also understand the other side because there are people who are afraid
Yep.
to open up their mouth. I'm being honest. I understand when people are afraid because they got to go back to that same neighborhood.
Absolutely.
That's right.
So, folks, it's anonymous ways. If enough anonymous information gets to the police, sooner or later they got to look at it.
And I said that to Gramalia when he was talking because people were questioning 137% solve rate on these murders, and we were like, well, wait a minute, what about the murders from last year? Well, the way they calculate it, but anyway, it's still confusing. But at the end of the day, part of the unsolved rate is for us not giving information. Someone just told me recently about Ronald Evans. They said, some people know who killed that boy, but they ain't saying nothing. And I said, this mother is still hurting because her son's murderer has not been caught because we won't say anything. And there's many, many mothers like that and fathers and families that we won't say anything. And that's why these guys feel like they can shoot somebody up at a party because ain't nobody gonna catch them. Ain't nobody gonna say nothing.
Don says, I was at Skating Land. Talking about at 14.
Yeah.
We went skating.
Yeah.
We went out.
I was at Arena.
But now, truthfully, I mean, there ain't a whole lot left. We don't have Arena and Skate Land and all that anymore. But at the end of the day, like I said about him, he was 12.
Yeah.
And like I say about her, she's 14 years old. But there is a murderer.
Yes.
Whether he intended it or she intended it or not, that somebody knows. And that somebody is afraid. So I'm just encouraging people that if you don't want to use your phone, you can drop a letter in the mail. You can do whatever to the police department and just put her name on it. And this is what I know. Somebody gonna follow up on something.
Yep.
But if they have nothing, that's my biggest problem. It ain't about no 14-year-old being outside in no party on a weekend. Because our children deserve fresh air.
And I would agree with you, sir. And I think because I have some people who live in the area, and I think, like you said, the crime is the crime.
Yes.
We're not taking away from that.
Yes.
The issue that a lot of the neighbors have is they've been calling in the unruliness of the parties for years. And it was like, no one showed up. So because they said there was a lot of calls that happened that night because there was underage drinking going on and things like that. So like you said, the partying, that's cool. But it's, okay, so we got to calm down I think that where the parents get involved is, okay, no one say you can't let your kids have a party in your house and have teenagers over. But if you're allowing the underage drinking and things and the drug use.
But let me say this. I like to be real. When I first bought my house, and my granddaughter said, Papa, it was her 17th birthday. Papa, can I have a few friends over?
Right.
For my birthday. I said, of course, honey. And I moved all the furniture over so they could have. I went to Home Depot, bought a little floor they could be on, so they ain't scratching up my floor.
Absolutely.
When I left the house,
Nice and calm.
it was about 20 kids sitting looking real bored. I left with my heart just a bleeding. Oh, my granddaughter's birthday is a
She got
bus.
friends. It looks all nice and calm.
I'm at Home Depot. My father called me. Hey, it's a line outside of your house? What?
A line.
Line.
Oh, you done turned it to the club.
Because of social media.
Yeah.
Now I got all of these kids. I'm
Yeah.
sweating, but I did have adults in every corner
Right.
of the room. But and if you went out, you couldn't come back in, all that kind of stuff. But I understand how something gets out of control.
Absolutely.
Because I sweat bullets for 3 hours.
Yes.
Going, this wasn't supposed to be like this.
Yeah.
Now I'm asking, like, where did all these kids come from? One kid tells
Close
another
it,
kid,
yeah.
it's a party
We
over here.
Yep.
And before I knew it, so I'm going to tell you, I understand, because at times these smaller events, you got to realize when we were kids,
Yep.
you and I,
Yep.
you had social media when you were a kid. We didn't have
no
social
Oh, no.
media.
Well,
So-
I was by the time like Facebook and stuff started, I was out of high school.
Okay,
So,
right.
yeah.
So for us,
Yeah.
when we had our little parties, it was just who we invited.
Absolutely.
Ain't nobody get on social media and go, it's
it.
a party over here and all that kind of stuff. And then there were so many kids. I'm up in the balcony looking down with a flashlight and coming down on the floor going, get up. No, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh God, this has got to be over.
Yeah.
It's got to be over. This is not. So with social media, sometimes it just gets out of hand.
Oh, absolutely.
But I can tell you what, ain't not one of my near grandkids ever had another one in my house, or it ain't gonna happen.
Absolutely.
Because it grew so
So
fast.
fast,
yeah.
And all I kept thinking about, if something happens, it's gonna be Pridgeon
Yep.
had a party. Pridgeon
Absolutely.
this, Pridgeon that. So I pray. When I tell you I was praying like it was a revival. And then I would do my neighbors a favor by going around the corner, circling around, making sure none of the kids were
Right.
hanging out, because I just felt like you have all of these kids. We even had, I went around and got me a metal detector, a wand.
But it's true.
It's the truth.
And,
But
and that's how fast, and that's the crazy part. That's how fast some of these things are growing. So, like you said, if you don't have the responsible adults,
Yeah.
and then you're relying on, honestly, Buffalo police to come help you police the situation, and then there's the scatter, and that's where this tragedy
Absolutely.
happens. When now you have these mass of young people now flooding into this residential neighborhood.
That's why, and we're getting ready to pay the commercials in about 30 seconds. That's why I want to talk about it, because if you are going to do something and you know there's going to be, you that's where you got to reach out, and you're going to have to spend some money.
Absolutely.
I mean, you got to pay some of these people who identify with these kids,
Yes.
pay them. And then that way you have a safer event, you have somebody patrolling. A lot of these folks on Stop the Violence, Mad Dad, whoever it is, right? They show you paid.
Yeah.
If you're going to pay security, pay them. They know them at least.
Yes.
All right, we're coming over to the station, and we're going to pay some bills the right way in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
When it comes to something as personal as your clothes, you need to deal with somebody you can trust. That's why so many people turn to Hobson's Dry Cleaning, conveniently located in the heart of the community at 874 East Delavan at the corner of Wyoming.
When you take your clothes to Hobson's, you can trust that they'll be ready on time.
You can trust that your whites will be white.
You can trust that you'll always get a fair price and service with a smile.
You can even trust that you won't have to get out of your car if you don't want to. Hobson's has a drive-through window for your convenience.
Trust is what it's all about at Hobson's Dry Cleaning.
Hobson's Dry Cleaning, your one-stop dry cleaners serving the community for over 30 years at 874 East Delavan at the corner of Wyoming. Call 891-8298. That's 891-8298.
Brian K. Lewis Funeral Home has 3 locations to serve you in Buffalo. 347 Peckham, 2258 Bailey Avenue, and Providence Memorial Chapel at 1275 Sycamore. Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes offers traditional services, and they have services for all faiths. And at Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes, they have air-conditioned parlors and chapels. Financing is available, as is limousine service. At those difficult moments in your life, Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes is available where you are with counseling services. Call toll-free 877-885-7734. That's 877-885-7734. Or locally 845-5545. Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes. We are here to serve you, here to serve this present age. Call today, toll-free 877-885-7734. Or email info@brianklewisfuneralhome.com.
Yeah, thank you to Hobson's, the Dr. Dry Cleaning, and to Mrs. Hobson, and to Brian K. Lewis Funeral Home. Now, you all know I love a good funeral. So we had a funeral every day this week.
Every
Every day this week we had a homegoing. So when Daryl comes over, when Brian comes over this week, and Brian, it's time to close. Now I'm preaching it. Time to close, and Brian, I said, funeral home will come for. Brian pointed at me because he know I love. It. So this was the first time I had to do everything. Everything.
Yeah, she just held the flowers.
She
sat
just
back.
held the flowers, and I did the closing and the wheeling down of the body, and then the closing of the casket, and then I've done that many times, especially if it's a faithful member, and if their family doesn't want to do it, I'll do it. So this time, though, at the end of the funeral, Brian still ain't moved. So he's like, "You got it." So when we went to turn the body, I was going the wrong way at first. I didn't realize feet first.
Right, you go
door.
out feet first. Right?
Out feet first. But it felt, I don't know. I even texted him because at the end, you know, when you're outside by the hearse, you're like, "Gentlemen, I need 3 on this." I love funerals. I love, and the reason, and I did a live on this, it's the hardest time in people's lives.
Yeah.
And I work my tail off to bring some type of peace to families in one of the hardest times of their life. And that's what I want for me. That's what I want for my family. And I try to treat families in that way. So, yeah, thanks, Brian.
Well, you definitely did that because I heard Jalen's dad say that, and they interviewed him, and he said, "This brought me a piece of peace."
Wow.
So
wow. That meant a lot. You know, because people come in, they're broken. They are broken. When you lose a loved one, you're broken. But I just try my best. Once I get that little smile out of the person who's most hurt, it's like I'm Superman. Then I'm gone. I'm gone. So thanks, Brian, for letting me operate in my passion, which is with people who are bereaved. All right, let's take it to this young man shot by airman, Air Force, who. Police, the sheriff's department is at his door. They're knocking. I would show the clip on social media, but I think I'll get flagged for graphic content, so I won't. They're not. The sheriff's office announces, "Sheriff's office, open the door." They go because there's a alleged disturbance in the apartment. There's a young lady in one of the clips who's walking with one of the officers and says, "Yeah, there's a disturbance, but I don't know which apartment this comes from. But I've heard it before, and I've heard the B word, and I've heard this, and that." Sheriff knocks on the door at least twice, and he does announce Sheriff's Department. Allegedly, and all this is alleged, I wasn't there, the young man, he's an airman in the Air Force, senior airman, is on FaceTime or some type of device with a girl. He says somebody's banging on my door, allegedly. And the first account was the police broke in, but that's not true. You can see, because I'm thinking, why did they break in if they didn't have a search warrant?
Right.
Number one, right? That's not what's on the tape. What's on the tape, I'm dating myself, that's not what's on the video. When the police officer hits it again, and says, "Open the door." Now, number one, you hear no disturbance.
Right.
That's number one. Let's start there. So it's one thing to bang on the door because you hear people fighting and, cussing and breaking stuff. Nothing. At least from what you can hear on the body cam. When the young man opens the door, you can see a gun in his hand. He had a legal gun, and he had it down. It was not pointed up. Right away, I think you hear, after he's shot, put the gun down. Right away, you hear boom, 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 boom. And then you hear something coming from the airman, it sound like, and then you hear the officer say, "Put the gun down." Now by this time, he's shot. So he dies. Ben Crump is representing the family. And so there was a press conference, I think yesterday, mom holding the picture. They had a press conference before, but it was without the body cam. So the family believes that the police went to the wrong door. Now, again, I get it. I don't get it. I don't get why there wasn't a retreat of the officer to say, put down your weapon. But that could have meant his life. You do see this gun. I'm going to hold my opinion until this case is over, because I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what it felt like for the airman being in a house and somebody's banging on your door.
Right.
Now, people say, well, he says sheriff's, but if I'm in the back
Right.
and all I hear is boom, 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 and then I hear boom, boom, boom,
Oh
boom.
yeah, I'm coming ready.
I
Too.
may not know. I may not have heard. I know I wouldn't have went to the door with a gun if I heard sheriff's department. But according to the young lady who was on video, was watching them, he went and looked through the peephole and he didn't see anybody. And you can see when the officer banged, he moved to
He
the
stepped
side.
to the side.
Which is pretty much police
I was gonna say it's
procedure.
protocol,
You
I
don't
think,
you don't
yeah.
stand in front of the door.
Okay.
I'm not standing in front of the door and I
'Cause-
don't know what you have.
Right, because
Okay.
you can somebody can
yeah,
fire through
But
the
you
door.
could-
Yeah.
But I wanted to identify that I know who it is, because if you're not at the door and someone's banging on my door, I'm thinking, okay, it could be any criminal.
Well, it according to the young lady, allegedly that was the deal.
Okay.
That he didn't know. So he went and got his legal weapon and he opened the door with it down. And you see that the gun is pointing down. It's not pointing up.
Right.
And so he's dead. He's dead. And of course, his family and Ben Crump are saying that there should have been more of a de-escalation at first. I don't know, because I'm not an expert in the field.
Yeah.
I know I discharged my weapon when I was a cop. And I was in the housing area, report of a little chihuahua loose. I go over because I was the desk sergeant, but the person I had out on the street was slow, and it was time to get off. So I told him to come in and watch the desk. I was gonna run out to get this dog, stray dog. And when I went and I saw the dog, and there's these kids playing, and when I went to get the dog, there's this huge German Shepherd that breaks his leash and comes running at us. I just reacted. I didn't think like, oh, move the kids to the side and just get bit by the dog. Nah, I shot. And then I had to get on the radio and tell the commander I shot, and they had to come and relieve me of duty. It was a big deal. It was justified. It ended up being justified because other people saw this dog break off this leash, and he's just and I'm like, I gotta protect these kids. So I actually shot into the ground. I did not shoot at the dog, and that was enough to move for the dog to retreat. I know people could second guess that.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of, I don't know if I'd have saw a gun. I don't know.
I think, and it's split, and it's not to be pro police.
Yes,
or pro,
exactly.
You know,
We just telling the story.
Right.
Yep.
So it is kind of split because if you're the officer responding to a disturbance, like you said, you don't know what's behind this door. So you have to treat every door like the threat is imminent.
Yeah.
So I do get that side. And like you said, if I'm on the phone in the back on the laptop on whatever or tablet, I'm in my own conversation. I'm not necessarily hearing somebody at the door, and depending on the neighborhood, somebody banging on your door already puts me at a high level of threat. And then you don't know if he has PTSD from being an airman. So both sides of the door are at high alert.
Yeah, and he's trained.
Right.
I was an airman. I'm a vet. So, I mean, we're not trained like the Marines and the Army. You definitely want an airman to have a clear head because you're dealing with airplanes. You're dealing with that end of it. However, your head is about protection of yourself. You are trained to protect yourself. And so at the end of the day, you got an officer, and I thank you for saying this. We ain't on here trying to bash police. All I'm doing is repeating the story for people who may not have heard it. But definitely you got two people on both sides of these doors who have been trained
Yes.
to protect themselves. This young man, and by being a senior airman, that tells me he hasn't been in that long.
Right.
Because you start out as an airman unless you have some college, and if you got some college, at least when I went in, you're a senior airman. So you're talking about probably a year or less in the military, but still living by yourself.
Yes.
And in the house. And I mean, just transparency. You bang on my door. I gotta. Because nobody comes to my house.
Right.
Unannounced.
Yeah. I'm
very
guarded.
Yeah.
Very
yeah,
guarded.
Yeah.
And it's something too. I think that the public in general have to be educated on, because we don't understand those scenarios. I think so many of us are indoctrinated with TV. You can shoot them in the ankle, you can shoot them in the leg.
You are not taught to shoot in the leg.
And
shoot the center of mass.
I had to see something because it happened in Virginia where there was a man who was shot on the middle of his lawn. The police kept telling him, hey, drop your weapon. You couldn't see a weapon or anything, but you're standing there, and this guy, and I'm like, they were wrong in shooting him. But then when I went through this Citizens Police Academy, I learned differently. That's not how they operate. This is not gun smoke. This is real life.
Yeah.
That if they pull up and he shoots you, you could be killed.
Well, first of all, you're not taught to shoot in the ankle because that is a small area, which means other people could be in danger by shooting at somebody's ankle or trying to aim for a hand. You shoot at center of mass.
Right.
When you go to the range, they don't say try to shoot this little part. You shoot center of mass, the biggest part that you can shoot. And that's just how you are trained, and everybody's trained that way. Matrice Jones on Facebook asked the question, if you have a legal right to carry, why can't you answer the door with a weapon in your hand? I don't know. It's easy to be an armchair quarterback. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the good thing is he didn't answer it pointed out.
Right.
Now, if he opened that door and he had it pointed, hey, now it's a different scenario.
Reaction.
And I guess, like you said, because we can throw all kind of thought scenarios and everything at it, because then you can say, all right, I came to the door with my gun, but then did I ask who is it? So there's all those other pieces to it, because maybe if there was another, like I said, both sides are on high alert. So maybe I don't want to maybe I don't want to ask who's at the door because I want to surprise them. So you don't know what both parties are thinking on each side of the door. And I don't want to use that phrase. It is a quick decision.
It is for both.
For both.
It is.
It almost sounds like the Breonna Taylor situation somewhat. It's like, okay, you didn't hear anything, but you come in there, but this situation, did they see the gun at the time, and that's what why they shot?
I think from the reaction you can see, and you could plainly see. And at first I thought about the Taylor situation. In that one though, they actually busted in the door.
Yeah, there was no knock
and came in and all that. In this one, somebody's banging on the door. I do think it makes me second guess how I would now answer the door.
Oh, absolutely.
Based on if somebody's banging on my door. And this happened before where, especially Saturday mornings, because my house was a Seventh-day Adventist church and they meet on Saturdays.
Right.
For a long time, people would think that it was still a Seventh-day Adventist church. And then they would come and they'd be banging on the door thinking that the door was mistakenly locked. And so I've been, woken up like with people banging on my door, and it just kind of startles you. It's like, oh shucks. I don't think now. I don't know.
I was getting ready to say, does the article say the city? Because I was just watching. Because even though he passed, it came up as a recommendation, the OJ documentary from ESPN's version, and it was taking you back through what was going on in LA around the time. So it brought back to my remembrance the 39th and Dalton when police, I forget what they called the operation, but the LAPD was just running through the hood basically, and they had like 3,000 arrests and bragging about it. Oh, we arrested another 400 people this day and this, that, and the other. But there was the one address at 39th and Dalton, and it was nothing but like single moms and children living in the apartment. And the LAPD just ran in there and destroyed everything, just because TVs and this, that, and the other. And they said they found like a gram of rock cocaine and like 6 ounces of marijuana in like all of these apartments, but destroyed everything: toilets, bathrooms, TVs, kitchens. And when you watch the footage, they said this would look like it was done with like a military unit because they just wiped out everything. So my question with location, is the sheriff on edge also because
Florida, Okaloosa and county.
Okay.
Now, what's important about what you just said is Florida has a stand your ground law, folks.
Oh yeah, it's different.
Florida has a stand your ground law, which means if you have basically a legal gun
Yeah, that's a
and somebody is threatening you, you can pull your gun. Matter of fact,
Trayvon Martin.
there you go. So they have, this guy, in answer to Matrice's question, now that you just said it,
Yeah.
what is the stand? You know what? Let me just go to Chat AI.
yeah. Let her break it
Yeah.
down.
Oh, that's all I do. Listen, that is such a wonderful thing.
Yeah, let her break down the law
She's
for
gonna
us.
break down. I'm gonna ask it for a brief summary of the stand. Brief summary of the stand your ground law in Florida. Right now, watch how fat everybody knows if you're using it. Stand your ground law, here's the answer already, is a law in Florida that permits individuals to use deadly force in self-defense, listen to this, without first attempting to retreat from a dangerous situation. I want y'all to hear that. Hear this. Stand your ground. You do not have to retreat from so he didn't have to run. As long as they believe they are in imminent danger of death or great bodily harm.
So
He
that-
could have came out blasted.
I was getting ready to say, so to the point then, the senior airman could have shot through the
Yeah,
door
absolutely.
just because.
The law removes the duty to retreat and grants individuals the right to defend themselves with deadly force if they reasonably believe it is necessary to prevent death or serious harm to themselves or others.
Yeah.
This law gained national attention in the case of George Zimmerman, who claimed self-defense under Florida's stand your ground law in the shooting. That was a very good point to bring up.
Yeah.
That he's in Florida, baby. He's in Florida. You banging on my door. If he did not hear sheriff's office, and he opens his door with the gun in a down pointed down.
But I'm just thinking that again, but you're not in imminent danger when you're behind the door, so he couldn't shoot through the door.
I wouldn't shot through the door.
Yeah,
So he opens the door,
and then
but he has the gun down.
yeah,
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Florida.
That Florida
Yeah.
got some laws, man.
Yeah.
Listen,
If you don't know 'em, stay out.
We talking about how the stuff around here. You can go to Florida right now. I can go to Florida right now.
Yeah.
My driver's license and buy a gun.
Buy a gun.
There's a
Background
quick
check.
background check, but they do the same background check here when you go to buy a gun at like Cabela's.
Yes.
They do a quick, it takes maybe a half an hour, 20 minutes, right? So they still have to do that. And then to get your permit here, you got to go through a more extensive.
Right.
But every time you go buy a new weapon, they do a background check. That's basically all Florida does. So you don't go in like to Florida and get a permit. You go to the gun dealer. So now you got all these guns. And there's a lot of shootings in the Orlando area and all that kind of stuff because there's a lot of guns on the street.
Absolutely.
And now with this, that kind of changes the dynamics of this boy going to the door with his gun.
And it now makes sense why there would be even more alertness by the sheriff because you don't know, like you said, if this
Right.
guy's getting ready to come out shooting when
Right.
he opens the door. So it's a sticky situation, and prayers go to the senior airmen.
Absolutely.
But prayers also go to the sheriff that had to do what he had to do in that moment, because that is a very different situation.
So here's facts. In Florida, you do not need a permit to purchase a firearm from a private seller. However, you do need to undergo a background check for most gun purchases, whether from a licensed dealer or through a private sale. To purchase a firearm from a licensed dealer in Florida, you have to be 21 for a handgun, 18. Only 18 for a long gun.
Yeah.
Pass a background check, provide valid identification. Additionally, Florida does require a permit to carry a concealed firearm in public. This permit, known as a concealed weapon or firearm license, requires completion of a firearm safety course.
Okay.
So to conceal, but
down there, they want you to carry open. they happy with you carrying on your hip.
You know, that time we went to Texas and I saw them people with them guns. I'm like, hey, what's going on here?
yeah. And they're proud of their guns.
Traumatized. I was like, hey, we got to go. What was going down? up in
Yeah,
that piece?
so it's a lot different. I'm asking one other question to my friend Chat. So I said, can you open carry a handgun? No, you cannot open carry a handgun in Florida in most circumstances. Florida law generally prohibits the open carrying of handguns, except in limited situations, like engaged in certain lawful activities, hunting, fishing, camping, while traveling to and from those activities. So if you're going hunting, you can be in Publix.
So that's all I got. So that's all I got to say. I'm going. I stopped in the supermarket and I'm on my way fishing. Because that's all I got to say.
I'm the rifleman.
If you have a CWFL, something else, but open carry of handguns is prohibited.
So how different is Florida's law from Texas's law as far as carrying? Because in Texas you can carry.
I'm not sure. Can you open? I don't carry a a handgun in the state of Texas. And let's see what it says. At my last update, January 2022, Texas law generally prohibits the open carry handguns. However, there are exceptions since laws can change. So this chat didn't give me a whole
Generally.
lot. Generally.
Yeah.
Generally.
This guy had a big old gun, and I was like, hey, let's get up out of here.
And then who knows? It probably could change by county
who
and
knows?
Jurisdiction.
That it's just better not to have. Now, what I didn't know is, and I found this out years later, I didn't know years ago that you could travel with your gun, on the airline.
Yeah.
You can't take it on the airline before
declare
I lose my TSA pre-check.
Right.
He just
He just said there's a procedure. Matter of fact, I let my TSA pre-check. I got to get ready to go. Expire. They were sending me emails, and I kept, how you put off something like, I'm going to get it done, and then it expired. So then you could renew it online.
But you got 12
it
other
said
things.
30 days. Yeah, I got clear.
You got 12 other things to get you through.
But still, I like it to be a ticket, TSA pre-check.
Yeah.
But I got it back approved in like 40 hours. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, folks, a lot going on. Nothing starting yet, right? We almost at Memorial Day.
Yeah, Memorial Day in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, Memorial Day,
Mother's Day,
Juneteenth will be. Yeah, Mother's Day.
Day,
By the way, happy Mother's Day to everybody.
Mother's
Happy
Day.
Mother's Day to my mom, who will pull over to watch this show.
Oh, jeez.
Oh yeah.
Does she really?
If her and her sister are out shopping, they go get in the car at 12 o'clock. They go get in the car at 12 o'clock to listen to this show.
Mama's
big
boy.
ups to my mom, and big ups to my Aunt Gail and all of my aunts and everybody, my kids who are mothers, everybody, Lottie Dottie, and everybody. Have a great time with your mother. Craig has me taking mine out to some restaurant. You know where we're going? To where we took Janice. Man, when he booked that place, remember we got that bill? How much was that bill when the dinner bill came?
1,000 something.
It was thousands.
What is that
$1,000
for 6 people?
It was like,
Jesus. Oh, that's love. Oh, that's
Oh, and we got just as
that's
many
love.
people. We went with 6 people.
No,
it was over a grand.
It was like 1,500.
It was over a grand.
I was like,
and we got 6 people going on Mother's
did
Day.
we make a mistake?
Craig, yeah, 6 people going on Mother's Day. I told him you booked the place.
I was getting ready to say he putting his plastic up.
I'm on the fixed income. I'm on a limited income. I got one job. I got one job. I get my little pension, but that pension, I got medicine. No, I don't. No, I don't. I don't have medicine.
Well, I was
Claim
going to
that.
say, let's also pray for those who have lost their moms too, because
Amen.
Yes.
Amen.
I got a
Amen.
few on my job that are going
Yeah.
through, and
Amen.
so let's keep prayers out to
That's
those
right.
that have lost those as well.
I agree. Well, I'm going to get ready to throw it back over to the station so they can pay the bills and play the real commercial. Thank you, Brian K. Lewis. Thank you, Hobson's Dry Cleaning. We're throwing it back over to you. Until next week, power to the people.